Hello everyone. This presentation is on histamine and antihistamine drugs. The contents of this presentation are based on the available literature, and some places there will be reflection of the experience gain. Therefore, it should be considered as presenter's opinion only. Now, the questions asked in Viva mostly test knowledge comprehension, analysis, and application of the knowledge to a clinical situation. This session is prepared with inclusion of unique characteristics of corticoids, their agonists and antagonists. It also includes their therapeutic utility. Objectives are to clarify concepts, to prepare and enable you to perform well in VIVA examination, and to make most out of the limited time of interaction between you and examiner. And also objective is to prepare and enable you to appear in the next PPG examination and perform well. So with these objectives, let us begin now. Now, the first question could be enumerate otocoids. Otocoids are local hormones and include histamine, serotonin, prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and platelet activating factor. Bradykinin, that is kinins, and angiotensins are also included. Now, next question could be which among them are stored and which are formed at the time of need, that is inflammation or infection, at the site of inflammation. Now, histamine and serotonin are stored. Histamine is stored in mast cells. It is found in skin, gastric fundus, and intestinal mucosa. Serotonin is found in enterochromaffin cells in the gut, platelets, and brain. There are some drugs which release preformed histamine from their binding sites in these cells, and these drugs are morphine, atropine, atracurium, that is skeletal muscle relaxant, D-tuberculin rarely used, dextrans, polymyxin B, and vancomycin. Now, if you remember vancomycin, adverse effect is red man syndrome, flushing and redness over the upper part of the body, that is chest and the face, and that is because of local release of histamine. Therefore, these drugs do release histamine and cause adverse effects. Now, what are the common properties of antihistaminics? Now, antihistaminics are classified into first generation and second generation, and in general, first generation, the older compounds are having antihistaminic activity along with sedative properties and antimuscarinic properties. Newer agents have antihistaminic properties, but antimuscarinic property is less, and many of them are non-sedative. Therefore, this distinction should be made clear before discussion. Now, the anti-allergic activity of the antihistaminics is because they block H1 receptors and their potency varies from drug to drug. Sedation of the older group also varies from drug to drug. There are drugs like promethazine, hydroxyzine, they are highly sedative, and there are other drugs which are less sedative, for example, chlorpheniramine maleate. Now, antimuscarinic activity also may be high or it may be low, and this may determine the ultimate therapeutic activity of older compounds. Newer agents, second generation agents, are devoid of it. Now, some antihistaminics of older group are antiemetic and anti-vertigo drugs, and for this purpose, they are used in the treatment also. In addition, newer agents have additional anti-inflammatory properties, and that determine their more utility because of lack of antimuscarinic and sedative action also. There are many peculiarities of individual drugs which will come during further discussion. Now, one question could be, can you name a histamine law which is used in the treatment of Meniere's disease or vestibular neuronitis? Yes, beta-estrin is a very old drug and it is used in the treatment of acute Meniere disease or Meniere syndrome because of the vestibular disease. But mind you, this is histamine analog, not antihistaminic. Now, among the newer non-sedating antihistamines, there are characteristics which can be asked as an MCQ or as a 3 or 4 options. One option could be lack of antimuscarinic action. Newer don't have, that is correct. Additional anti-inflammatory activity, we have already discussed, yes, they have. Next is lack of efficacy in motion sickness, that is also correct. Older are more effective and they are used actually. So the last option is ability to freely cross blood-brain barrier. I discussed earlier that antihistaminics do not cause sedation, newer one. Therefore, they don't cross the blood-brain barrier. They have only peripheral actions. That means this option is wrong. So their ability to cross blood-brain barrier is not there actually. So they act peripherally. They don't cause sedation. Now, antihistamine act on different subtype receptors. There are 4 subtype receptors which have been identified and blockers also found. The conventional antihistaminics are H1 blockers and they include large number of drugs. For example, older, newer, there is first generation, second generation, chlorpheniramine, pheniramine, promethazine, nitroxazine, and many others actually. They all are H1 blockers. Some antihistaminics, though not classed as antihistaminics, they are H2 blockers or anti-ulcer drugs or anti-secretory drugs. Famotidine, ranitidine, nizatidine, cimetidine, the oldest one, they all are used as anti-ulcer drug, anti-secretory drug. They reduce the hydrochloric acid secretion. H3 blockers have been also identified. One drug, triplolisant, have been found useful in the treatment of narcolepsy, that is excessive daytime sleeping. H2 blockers have found their firm place. S3 are being developed. S4 blockers are also being developed. One drug, thiopyramide, may have a role in pruritus, but this drug is under investigation. You may be asked one more question. A highly potent antihistaminic drug is, there are large number of variations one may answer. I will answer pyrimethamine. There could be promethazine or dimenhydrinate also. But pyrimethamine is a moderate sedative, not highly sedative, and it has modest anticholinergic activity. Similarly, antihistaminic used against extrapyramidal, acute extrapyramidal reaction, acute dystonia due to drug-induced Parkinsonism type of the syndrome. The drugs are diphenhydramine and promethazine. Now, mind you, these two are phenothiazines, and extrapyramidal reactions are actually caused by phenothiazines. So, this is exception to the rule. These two drugs are used in the treatment of acute dystonia rather than they cause it. Now, another question could be antihistamine which stimulates appetite. There are 2 or 3 antihistaminics. One is cyproheptadine, the other is meclizine, and third is bulclizine. Among other drugs which improve appetite and cause weight gain, not belonging to antihistaminic group are dronabinol, magistral acetate, and mirtazapine. Now, later on, you will realize that mirtazapine is atypical antidepressant used in the treatment of depression. If you are asked, select an antihistamine for a male executive 45 years who is unable to sleep due to intense itching and pruritus. Obviously, sleep disturbance is one, and the reason is pruritus. Therefore, an antipruritic drug which can induce sedation would be the choice. And my choice would be hydroxyzine. There could be other drugs also. Promethazine could be there, pyrilamine could be there. But in this condition, non-sedating antihistaminic should not be used. Most of the drugs which have anti-itch action are cyproheptadine and hydroxyzine. Therefore, hydroxyzine is a choice. Loratadine, fexofenadine, olapatadine should not be used. Hydroxyzine actually in body is metabolized into cetirizine, which per se is antihistaminic, but it is non-sedating almost. It has antipruritic activity. That is. Now, if you are asked to select an antihistamine for a driver who is suffering from common cold, now here you do not have to choose a sedating. You have to choose a non-sedating because sedating antihistaminics will affect psychomotor performance and fine movements of the hands, and that will affect the driving skills and therefore should not be given. The right answer here would be loratadine or disloratadine, which are absolutely non-sedating daytime antihistaminics. Now, if required, because there is allergic uh, component also, blocked nose is there, one may use pseudoephedrine, a combination of pseudoephedrine with loratadine or disloratadine. But this drug again should be used if we are sure that he is normotensive. That is important. Although it is safer, but even then, blood pressure measurement should be done. For fever, paracetamol can also be given. So this is how you have to select a particular drug depending on the clinical credentials. Now, which antihistaminic you will prescribe for a young female who develops giddiness, nausea, and vomiting while contemplating for travel? Now, this is a case of travel sickness or motion sickness. And here you have to give drugs which have anti-vertiginous, anti-nauseant actions. And conventionally, scopolamine is a drug of choice, which is anticholinergic drug. Often it is not available. So other drugs used are dimenhydrinate, promethazine, meclizine, and cyclizine. Any of these drugs can be used. Now, another question could be which antihistamine is used to prevent nausea and vomiting during early pregnancy. Morning sickness occurs commonly. The general rule is no drug should be given because no drug is safe in pregnancy and particularly in early pregnancy. But if at all patient is symptomatic and requires treatment, then the most widely used drug and tested drug is doxylamine. It is given alone or along with vitamin B6. And doxylamine is considered to be safe, but remember, no drug is safe in pregnancy. Another catchy question could be a tricyclic antidepressant which has marked statin, antihistaminic, alpha 1 blocking, and anticholinergic actions, and is used as a topical cream for the treatment of pruritus is. The answer is doxepin. Others are not used, all are tricyclic antidepressants, but doxepin cream is used. Now, this drug is unique, having antidepressant and antihistaminic action. It has hypnotic and antipruritic action also. Some antihistaminics are used topically only, and among them are azilastine as a nasal spray in allergic rhinitis or as eye drops in allergic conjunctivitis. Other agents are B-potastine, epinastine, L-caftadine, olapatadine. They all are used as eye drops for the treatment of allergic conjunctivitis. They have additional anti-inflammatory activity also. A topical antihistamine which also has anti-inflammatory and mast cell stabilizing action. Among these four options are cetirizine, olapatadine, cyproheptadine, and chlorpheniramine. The answer is olapatadine because cetirizine, cyproheptadine are orally effective. They are not topical, and chlorpheniramine is available topically also, but additional properties are not there. The other is epinastin. Now, about motion sickness, the drug of choice for motion sickness I earlier told you is hyoscine or scopolamine, and hyoscine can be given orally as 0.2 milligram and repeated after 3 to 4 hours if required, depending on the length of the travel. However, for longer journeys, a transdermal system called as transdermal V containing 1.5 milligram of the drug in a special patch is applied over the back of the penna and it works for 3 days. However, this patch must be applied 3 to 4 hours before the starting of the journey. Because the drug is slowly released, sedation is much less than the oral scopolamine. Often scopolamine is not available, then dimenhydrinate, promethazine thioclate, cyclizine, maclizine can also be used. When these drugs are used, what instructions would you give to the individual traveler? Take tablet 30 to 6 minutes before travel actually. What is the role of antihistamines in anaphylactic shock? Anaphylactic shock is an acute reaction due to antibiotics or some allergens, and this must be treated as medical emergency. The first drug should be adrenaline, and the role of antihistaminics is secondary only. It is the antihistaminics are not the first drug to be used. The reason is because they are slow acting even when injected. They are slow acting and they may aggravate hypotension because they are vasodilatory, and hypotension is a sine qua non of a shock. Another reason is some of the manifestations of the histamine are antagonized. For example, cutaneous manifestations of allergy are antagonized, but bronchospasm and angioedema due to allergens is not antagonized adequately by antihistaminic drugs. Therefore, their role is add-on drug after adrenaline. And adrenaline, as I told you, is a specific drug, is a physiological antagonist by acting on all receptors. Alpha receptors raises blood pressure, beta 1 receptors cardiac stimulation, and beta 2 receptors bronchodilation. Therefore, clinically manifestations of the shock are reversed. Now, antihistaminics are not the first line drugs for bronchial asthma also, because histamine is not the only mediator of bronchospasm. Other anticoaguls play a role, particularly leukotrienes play a role. That is important too. Second is the older drugs have marked anticholinergic activity and therefore they will dry up the sputum that will be difficult to expectorate out. And the third reason is concentration of the drug attained in the bronchi is low, insufficient to antagonize histamine action on the bronchial smooth muscles. They are not the drugs of choice for bronchial asthma. Some newer agents may be tried. That is correct. Cyproheptadine have been tried. Now, cyproheptadine is a unique drug. Now, this is unique drug because it has three actions. One drug has antihistaminic, anticholinergic, antiserotonin action. So, it's a unique drug. H1 blocker, 5-HT2 blocker, and antimuscarinic action, mostly on the M3 receptors. In addition to this, the drug is known to stimulate appetite. It has been used in children to achieve weight gain. Other uses are it is a strong antipruritic drug and been used in cold-induced urticaria. It is used to treat the dysorgasmia, that is erectile impotence or failure of orgasm due to selective serotonin receptor inhibitors use. These drugs are used in depression, but they may cause this adverse effect. 4 milligram prior to sexual activity may improve the performance. For the treatment of serotonin syndrome that occurs later on, we will discuss this in the next presentation. Serotonin syndrome, cyproheptadine being anti-serotonin, is used as 4 milligram every 4 hours only for 4 doses to treat the serotonin syndrome. One investigational use of the cyproheptadine, which is classed as antihistaminic but has multiple actions, is in the treatment of Cushing disease, not Cushing syndrome, Cushing disease, because it reduces ACTH secretion from the pituitary tube. Now, sometimes a very basic question is asked: describe triple response of Lewis. The triple response means the three components of this response is intradermal injection of histamine causes erythema, flare, and wheal. Flare is associated with itching. The reason is immediate local capillary dilatation due to nitric oxide release. Flare is because of reflex, axon reflex mediated vasodilatation in the vicinity, and VL is because of capillary leak causing edema and exudation of the fluid. One should remember that antihistamines antagonize triple response, particularly wheal, flare, and itch. So, clinical offset of this phenomena is that the people who go for allergy testing, and if they are taking antihistamines, what advice would you give to them? The advice would be it is better to stop the drug for 5 to 7 days before undergoing allergen skin testing. The reason is because the antihistamine drugs remain in the skin for a longer time than in the plasma. Therefore, they will inhibit wheal and flare response upon intradermal injection of histamine or an allergen. So, allergen test will be negative falsely, and this effect would persist for up to 7 days even after discontinuation of the antihistamine drug. And therefore, patients should be asked to discontinue antihistaminic for 7 days and then should come for allergic testing. And this way, true positive cases can be identified. I hope I have tried to clarify the caveats and vignettes which will help you in appearing very nicely and effectively for Viva examination. Thank you for be joining this session, and I will be presenting next session on serotonin, their agonists and antagonists. Thank you and good day.